Hello, folks. Welcome to Scratch the Surface. I'm EJ Scott. Today, my guest is Opus Moreschi. Opus has been Stephen Colbert's head writer for many, many years. He's been on the show before, and I will get to all that in just a second. But first, some plugs. For myself. You can find me on the socials on Twitter at EJ Scott and at EJ Podcast. I'm on Instagram, EJ Scott1106. I have a website, ejscott.com. Boom. You can please subscribe to my podcast on iHeartRadio or iTunes. Don't miss any of them. I have a documentary called Running Blind available on digitally on iTunes, Amazon, or Google Play. It's about me running 12 marathons in 12 states in 12 months and blindfolded in 2012 because I am going blind from an eye disease called choroideremia. Runs in my family. It's genetic and degenerative. It really blows. So go check that out. And that's about it. Cool. So Opus was on first in between the Colbert Report and the Late Show, and we talked. It was a few years back, obviously, and we had a good talk. And then I asked him to come back on and tell me a little bit about what it's like working on the Late Show, and he does. And we have a great talk. We talk about that, and we talk about our old improv days and lots of fun stuff. He talked, when we talked, H.W. Bush had just died. Now, this podcast is a bit old, and I apologize. I have not been on my game for a while. I have a few podcasts that I've been holding on to. Things have changed in my household and in my life and stuff like that. It just kind of, once that happens, I get kind of thrown off. But I'm trying to get back on track, and I apologize. And thank you for subscribing and tuning in and being a supporter of the podcast and of myself. I really appreciate it. But look forward to a bunch of new podcasts coming very shortly. So thank you very much to Opus for sitting down and talking with me. We had a good talk in Brooklyn end of last year. And I guess that's about it. I'm still trying to get my bearings on all this stuff. Thank you so much for listening, and enjoy my talk with Opus Moreschi. Hi, Opus.
Hello, EJ.
How you doing?
Good. We are just saying hello for the first time. We haven't been conversing for the past 10 minutes.
No, we have not.
We would never leave the podcast listener out of our conversations.
When we met, we were completely silent.
Yeah, until you had that podcast. Gestures. It was like 8 years before we talked? And then you're like, I have a podcast. You slip me a note that said I have a podcast, and then you turn on the recorder and we started talking.
Usually I write it on an Etch-a-Sketch and then immediately erase it.
Well, that's because you're very green. You're very you like to be ecologically sound, and so...
Except every time I use one, I just throw it away.
That's not... Those are filled with, some sort of fine lead mist or something.
Well, that's not my problem. That's the future's problem. The future's problem. Thanks for coming over. You came over to where I'm staying with my girlfriend's parents and stuff, so it was nice of you to accommodate. Are you still at the same place I went to?
Yeah, in Brooklyn Heights, yeah.
How many Emmys do you have now?
3.
Still 3. Okay, you had 3 last time. Okay, so things aren't going so good.
Stalled, really.
You kind of peaked.
Yeah, my career's going nowhere.
I'm sorry to hear that.
No, it's quite all right. It's fine. The thing is, you have 1 Emmy, you've won an Emmy. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You have 2 Emmys. You have anything over 2. I think is just cake, because then when you die, and everything we do is purely so that when we die, our obituary looks good. It'll say multiple Emmy Award winner.
Yeah.
As long as you get over 1, you're multiple. So I'm in multiple town.
They could save time by just pressing the 3.
Well, it's
instead of typing out multiple.
It's my obituary. Let me have this, man.
Well, it's still super impressive. I have 0, so it'll say the non-Emmy winning.
So, that's how every other obituary. It's like, he was a nuclear scientist who cured 7 kinds of cancer, but he won 0 Emmys.
The Emmyless.
EJ Scott.
Yeah.
E stands for Emmyless.
And J stands for
Oscarless.
yeah.
Something like that.
And Scott stands for bad at spelling.
Yeah. Well, last time I saw you, I was listening to a little bit of our last conversation, our last podcast, which was 4 years ago.
Jeez.
4 years ago. It was right in the
that makes sense.
In the sweet space between Colbert Report and
yeah,
and the Late Show.
Yeah. Had I gotten appendicitis at that point?
Oh my God, I don't remember. I only listened to like the first half, so maybe.
Okay.
What happened? When did you get appendicitis?
That was that period between the two shows. I think of as the time that I got appendicitis on a cruise ship in the Caribbean.
I don't think that happened yet.
Yeah, that was so. There's this like cruise that this guy Jonathan Colton, who's like a musician, sort of comedian guy. He puts together a cruise and like it's a bunch of nerdy people. It's a bunch of like, he gets like Paul F. Tompkins and like John Hodgman and then like bands, that are like kind of cool, like Amy Mann and like, and they put together a cruise and a bunch of kind of like hip nerdy kids go on it. And so Hodgman, who I know, sort of acquaintance wise through like Daily Show, Colbert stuff,
right,
had told me like I should do it. He said it was really fun. And people will they'll have writers who do like writing workshops and stuff. So I just talked to the guy. I'm like, hey, I'll come on board. I'll do some improv workshops. I'll do some writing workshops, and then I'll be able to like hang out and chill. And then like first night, I started feeling really crappy. And
what does that feel like? Crappy? What do you mean?
It was, I didn't want to eat anything. I had a pain in my stomach, and I felt like kind of feverish. And I didn't want to eat anything, and nothing was flowing through me at all. So you were
constipated.
Yeah, and it was bad news.
Oh.
And and I actually I had to get my I had to get off in St. Martin's, which is a small island.
That sounds nice.
The hospital was lovely there. I stayed there for about a week because they don't have like real state of the art equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you pay for it? I guess you just pay for it.
You just pay for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was actually, I don't know,
it's probably money.
Probably cheaper than like, I don't know, American medicine in terms of like, if you're paying out of your pocket, it also is less good, so that helps. Right?
Yeah.
You get the economy of.
You get what you pay for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I recommend it for anyone who wants to not be happy.
So did they immediately go, oh, you have appendicitis?
More, I kind of knew. The first couple days, I was like, I might have like the cold or a flu or something because I was just feeling crappy, sort of more generalized crappiness. And on these cruise ships, they have like Purell everywhere, and like they actually have like guys going around with like a little like butler guys with like, would you like a pump of Purell, sir? And you Purell because they're so worried about like flu and sickness. And so I didn't want to say anything to anybody because I'm like, if I'm sick, they're gonna put me in the
quarantine.
Yeah, they're gonna put me in the brig or whatever. So I just sort of like was wandering around, and I taught one improv workshop.
In pain?
Yeah, and like 105 degrees fever.
Oh my God!
Because this is like what this is what I'm there for. Like I'm getting this like free cruise out of the deal because I'm supposed to be doing these things. I didn't want to like bail.
Are you like how do you teach that way? Are you just zoning out?
No, it was like I just went on pure adrenaline and coffee, and it was really fun. And the thing about like nerds, and I say nerds because like I consider myself of that world. Like these people who are like very fan based of like lots of little sci-fi and tabletop games. Like they're very earnest and eager people, and a lot of times, as like in improv, the problem is people are like afraid and they're like kind of hugging the back line. They don't want to jump in. They don't want to try things. And the class was so much fun because everybody was just like jumping, like just going whole hog. None of them had any reservations about like just none of them worry about looking like they're silly because they're very comfortable being silly. So it was a really fun workshop. So that helped get through it. And then I curled up on my bed for the next like 6 hours in the position that I found that didn't hurt.
Oh,
yeah, it's okay.
God,
in the end, I'm fine. I'm healthy. There's people have been through much worse. So no one has.
True. Nobody has.
Oh wow,
not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
You're the worst. You've gone through the worst pain of everybody in the world in history.
Yeah.
So when you get to that place and they go, do they immediately just go, you got to go get this taken out immediately?
What happened was I had a friend in college who had appendicitis, and he was complaining about like feeling sick for a day. And I realized what he had said years ago was exactly what I was feeling. And it's like a pain in your lower right hand, sort of like belly region.
Yeah.
And I didn't want it to be that for a while. And then I was like, it's definitely that. Like, there's just no doubt that that's what this is. So I went to the little nurse station or whatever on the ship.
On the ship, yeah.
And they were like, they touched me a couple times. And at that point, like touching my midsection, which was just like jabbing me. It was just felt awful. And then, so I stayed because we were going to that island the next day. So I just stayed in the hospital on the ship overnight. Although they did, I think they just wanted to use their like equipment because I think mostly what they got down there was like, people with the flu or whatever. Yeah. So they had me, even though the ship, it's on a ship, and even a cruise ship, it does like sway and stuff, even though it's huge. And they had me do an X-ray, which involved me like standing with like an X-ray screen over my, like holding it.
Right.
And then they have this little X-ray camera. And like, there's no way that X-ray turned out because we're moving around. Like the camera's on wheels. It's like, but I think they just were like, we get to use our toys. So
yeah. Finally.
Yeah. So then I went to St. Martin's, and a guy named Dr. Pot, who's a Dutch man because it's a former Dutch colony.
Sure.
Took out my appendix, and the surgery went great.
Good.
I was so happy to be free.
How nervous were you?
Not at all.
Really? You were just like anxious to get out of pain.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, whatever you got to do, doc, just do it. Yeah, and then it was the recovery that was a little bit touchy because they weren't fantastic at nursing care. Yeah, or like first, changing bandages or anything like that.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
You have to, like, request that or something?
I apparently I did because I got my bandage changed once in 6 days, which I've never had surgery before, so I don't know what's appropriate.
Probably daily.
Twice daily is what I found out when I got back here to the States and finally talked to my doctor. They wouldn't let me go until my temperature had gone down under 100, and it had been up the whole time.
Right.
And it's finally went down like on the 6th day, or fifth day, I guess. And I was like, cool. And then like the nurse is like, okay, the doctor has to come around and check you out. And then if he's cool with it, you can leave, tomorrow. And I was like, oh, thank God. Because I just thought I'd be there like a night or two because my friend in college was in, the hospital for a night and he came back to the dorms. And then the nurse came around. They did like checks a couple times a day and took my temperature again at night, and it was back up again. And I was like, I can't like have a temperature. I have a plane ticket now. I like bought a little plane ticket on my phone. And so she sort of like was like, oh, okay, hold on. And then she left and came back with this giant ice pack that she'd wrapped in like towels. And she's just like, hold on to this. And so basically I just sort of clutched this like little bundle of ice that
in your hands,
just like holding it to my body, like just like as if it were a baby, and I was just like cuddling with it, and that brought my temperature down enough. So she like basically let me cheat. She was just like, "Here's how you cheat on this next test you have."
That's like when you want to get out of going to school, you put the thermometer against the light bulb.
Yeah.
And you
Does
have a
that
temperature.
work?
Yeah.
You
just can't do it for too long, or otherwise it's like 120 degrees.
Or I was always worried that the mercury would explode and like.
Well, that's a danger too, probably.
Yeah. Well, you're just more brave than I am.
So what? How helpful was Paul F. Tompkins? Did he help you?
He was not on the ship this time around.
Amy Mann, did she help you?
She was on the ship. She did not personally help me.
Okay. John Hodgman.
Hodgman was not on the ship either. So this
Who
was
helped you? Did anybody help you?
Jonathan Colton helped me. A guy named John Scalzi is a sci-fi writer who's very sweet and helped me a lot.
Because that's so scary that you're like in a
Storm, there's a band.
a strange place and you're sick and now you're just alone.
I was alone. I had
no visitors.
My friends and family offered like we'll fly down. We'll come down like tonight. And I'm like, no, it's like don't worry. I'll be out of here tomorrow. I'll be back home. It'll be fine. I actually thought I might be able to like catch up with the ship and get back on board and like go again because I didn't know it was going to be a week-long ordeal.
Yeah.
And so I was the one that like told all of my friends and family, including a friend of mine who was on the ship, who was like, "I'll go with you." I'm like, no. Like at that point, I'd be like more worried about like, if my friend came with me, like, where would I find her a hotel room, and like, how would she get home again? Like, I was like, I don't want to have to worry about anybody but like myself and getting this thing taken care of. So, I just did it, and then I came back here, and there was a wound infection that I had to deal with for a while. But
yeah, that could have gotten worse too.
Yeah, it could have been bad. It could have been bad, but it wasn't bad.
Going for one thing, come out with something else.
Yeah, I did. Amy Mann and Ted Leo, who was also on the ship. They came on the show, the Late Show, where I currently work. A couple of years later, and I went to say hello, and I thought we would all have like a fun laugh about this thing, because I think it's funny now.
Right.
And they were like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, it was appendicitis." They're like, "I'm so sorry." And I'm like, "No, I thought this was going to bond us." And instead they like treated me like I was a porcelain doll. And I was like, "I want to hang out with rock stars. Come on."
You poor thing. Then they wrote a song about it.
They did, yeah.
It was very sweet and sad.
Yeah, it was called Little China Boy.
Yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson used it.
Oh, no. Beautiful.
Yeah, it was, what an Oscar.
Now my obituary is going to say never won an Oscar, but a song about him did.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. I've never been hospitalized for anything.
No?
No.
That was my first time, other than, I guess, being a baby.
Okay, then I was
I had a case of being a baby.
I had a case of that too, I guess.
Yeah.
That's funny. So, wow. So
anyways,
that's a shitty
time
that
was
to
fun.
spend your hiatus or whatever you call it. Last time I saw you, it was in Los Angeles at Molly Hockey's house.
Yeah.
For her birthday party.
Yeah.
And we were catching up. And I think that was the first time I'd seen you since the podcast, maybe?
I think so, yeah.
I think that's true.
It was just, I was there for the weekend. Was that last year or this year?
It was this year.
Okay. I was there probably for the weekend for one of the times that I lost the Emmys this year.
It was the Emmys.
We were nominated in 2 different categories, so they were in different shows. So I was there like 2 weekends in a row.
Right.
Because there's the non-televised sort of creative arts Emmys, and then for the writing it was nominated, and the show itself was in the primetime Emmys. So I was like back and forth, and it just happened to be like this Molly's birthday, and her place happened to be like 2 blocks from my Airbnb, and I was like, this is great. And so I went there and I saw yourself and a bunch of other people that
like
I hadn't seen.
People.
Yeah, there's no IO anymore to go to and hang out, so it was very nice of Molly to be born near when I was in LA.
It's sort of, she's really nice.
Yeah, she is.
I went to IO recently, and it's all like boarded up.
Yeah.
But the big sign is still out there.
Oh.
The big IO West lit sign is still out there. It's not lit. But I'm like, I guess Sharna's just abandoning the sign. I guess what's she going to do with it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, she abandoned IO West 10 years ago, so monetarily. Anyhow.
I want the sign.
Yeah, you should.
I would love it. My girlfriend would never have it. She would not allow it.
I love the pool table and the mini bar.
I was like, maybe I could hang that outside our house. Would that be cool, babe? No, it would not be cool at all.
I bet you could contact and be like, whoever owns that building, and be like, hey, I'll give you $100 for it. Like,
I'm sure they'd be like, just take it.
Yeah, but for the $100 to be nice.
Yeah.
And if they take the $100, you're like, well, cheapskates. But,
Yeah, I would love to have it. It's not going to happen, though.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. And then there's weird signs on it, like trespassers, there's in violation of this and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, I heard there were like squatters and stuff in there.
Yeah, there was a raid on IO because there were like dozens of drug addicts and dealers in there. And it became, there's a lower part to it. I guess they were in the lower underground section of that I've never seen, but and maybe they were in other rooms. I don't know. I assumed they were in all the rooms because why not?
Police just raided.
Yeah, they raided it. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
It's pretty crazy.
Because I assume the drug dealers and drug users were like denying each other in a scene. They were like knowing their partners and saying no. And that's the police have got to come in and break that up. You gotta be supportive in improv.
One of them was Craig Kukowski.
What? Oh my God, Craig, he's such a sweet man. You'd think.
He's not gonna have it.
Oh.
Do you miss improv?
I do miss improv. Yeah.
I'm gonna start teaching.
Are you? That's great.
Yeah, Second City.
That's fantastic. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It doesn't pay anything, but I'm excited to do it.
You can get some like coaching jobs and get like a little scratch.
And I'm mostly looking for stage time too.
Oh yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, stage time. Well, you could get stage show if you want.
Well, we do a pretty much monthly. We do a Colbert writers show, which is not it's writers and then other people we work with come along, and people from our digital part, like people who do improv that work there, and it's fun. It's really fun.
We're at UCB.
Yeah, UCB at the new UCB Hell's Kitchen, which is a bit of a trek.
I haven't been there yet.
It's all right.
It's okay.
It's like a theater. It's like a legit theater. So it's got like high ceilings and like kind of stadium type seating. So and a stage itself, like rather than sort of
there's no poles. In
no
the
poles
front
and like weird like duct overhead that feels like it's going to fall at any moment.
Yeah. But
it also it lacks a little of the intimacy of the old space just because it's so much bigger.
We're so used to those spaces.
Yeah.
I mean, I did that in IO Chicago. Those spaces in IO Chicago I got used to. The IO West space
IO West, I was actually thinking about this recently because I got used to like the little kind of crammed space of UCB here. And also, I've noticed a difference just in the way we do our show between the little black box sort of television studio we did at the Colbert Report, and now we've got the Ed Sullivan Theater, which is this beautiful old like Broadway theater.
Right.
But it also like you kind of have to play it bigger because it's a bigger audience and it's just a bigger space. And I was wondering like how we ever did improv at iOS because it was actually it was sort of a small square footage, I guess. It was like a 2-story with a little balcony and everything.
Yeah.
If I walked out there now knowing what I do about like performing, I would be like, oh shit, this is going to be hard. But that's where I started doing improv. So I'm like, that's all I knew at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do miss that space. I think it could have been in a better area.
Yeah.
But I think the space itself was pretty nice. It was a good stage, good size stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the audience was a good size when it was full.
Yeah, and having the bar there was so great.
The bar was convenient.
Like spending a lot of time just hanging out there was really.
Yeah.
That was my LA family when I moved out there.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Now they're all dead. They just
rest in peace.
They piped some gas into that building and then
Speaking of death.
Yeah.
George H.W. Bush just died.
I know.
I guess today or last night or something.
Yeah, last night. Actually, came to my middle school when I was living in Brussels. I was actually just thinking about this.
Really? H.W.?
Yeah, H.W.
What did you do there?
Just gave a speech. I mean, it's like,
And when you were in Brussels, you said?
Yeah.
Did you live there when you were a kid, right?
Yeah, my stepdad was in the Air Force.
Right,
so...
Listen to his first podcast. We talk all about it.
Oh, yeah, it's great. So I was just thinking about that. But, yeah.
Did you know who he was?
Yeah, I knew he was. I think he was vice president running for president at that time.
He was with Reagan?
Yeah, and I didn't really know anything. My that side of my family, they're a little conservative, but here's how I would describe my stepfather. He thought, pre-Trump, let's just say, like that's a whole different like that.
PT.
Yeah, PT Anderson. But no, before Trump, I had a conversation with him in the mid 2000s. And he thought he's an Air Force guy, career Air Force guy, kind of grew up not that wealthy and sort of worked his way up and went to the Air Force Academy, and like he's a great guy. And my stepfather thought that George W. Bush was the worst president he had ever seen because at the time, and also my stepfather fought in Vietnam and saw some of his friends pass away, and thought that any president that would get us into any war that was not necessary and was just like a failing as commander-in-chief. I don't want to speak for him, but he also thinks that George H.W. Bush was one of the best presidents he saw in his lifetime.
Yeah.
But he's a principled guy. I think that's the thing about him. So
how does he feel about the current guy?
I don't think anyone likes that. Well, no, actually, 37% of people like that guy, and no one else does.
30%. Now, those polls are interesting. Are those 37% of voters in this country?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
adult voters, because that would mean like 80 million people still think, which is more people that actually voted for him, are like, oh, he's doing an okay job.
Yeah. I mean,
we'd vote for him again.
I think for some people, I don't know. I don't like thinking necessarily about like the voters and like where they're coming from. Yeah. Or villainizing or anything. Like I know that some people on the left like to cast a wide net as to like these are all these people they behave this way because of this, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know what's going on in their lives. I think that they've done an awful thing by supporting this president,
Right.
but I don't want to say that they are all one thing or another, or because
well, it's hard to do it's especially if people and love and are in your family or something like that have voted for him. It's hard to spread that net, I guess.
Yeah, and it also feels a little bit like punching down.
Yeah,
it's people who are in power are sought out to be public figures, and so making fun of them is like fine, but I don't want to make fun of some rando Trump voter, which is tough because sometimes you'll see like footage on like CNN of someone being interviewed who's just like a person at a rally, and they're like, oh, wow, there'd be so many good jokes off of that, but I don't want to make that guy or lady sad.
Because I do watch stuff like that. Like, I used to watch The Opposition with the great Jordan Klepper.
Yeah, love Jordan.
I love that show. I'm so bummed out that it didn't make it. Or Daily Show stuff, and going to the rallies of Samantha Bee or something.
Yeah,
and you see all these people, and they're passionate enough to be at a rally and to be dressed head to toe.
Yeah,
in gear.
Yeah.
But then when you start asking them questions, they don't really have answers.
Yeah, I feel like to some degree, many of them have what they have heard to be the answer, and unfortunately, they have not heard otherwise. And I also think at some point it becomes like sports, where you just sort of like you're sticking with your team no matter what.
Yeah. That's why I don't do sports.
That's why I don't do sports either. I don't like sports.
I don't get it.
But yeah, it's this tribalism or something. But
that's what it feels like to me too.
Yeah.
Tribalism. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. I was up in Connecticut where my dad and my stepmom live, and went up there, and it was pretty chill. Family Thanksgiving time with all of the perks and minuses that have. I think here's the thing about Thanksgiving is I feel like if it were like the Thanksgiving day, which is great. If it was like a dinner with a bunch of family members, it's like, that's fantastic. I love these people. I love to spend time with them, catch up with them. But it turns into like a whole like 4-day weekend thing where it's like, day 3, I'm like, oh, like wake up. I'm like, oh, you're still here. Great. No. Cool. Let's find something else to
Why'd you do a whole weekend? You're in Connecticut. That's close enough.
I stayed through Saturday evening basically. So I didn't do that. I was like Wednesday through Saturday.
Yeah,
so
I don't know if I could do those things anymore.
No?
Those are tough for me.
Yeah.
Those are a lot of...
Where'd you go?
I went to Long Island to see my family. I haven't done Thanksgiving with them in a few years.
Yeah.
And it's kind of tough. It's a little tough for me.
It can be a little tough.
Because they're all live together. They all live in the same area pretty much. And so they're used to each other and stuff like that. And I come in. Like
that happens with my family as well, and it sort of happened my whole life a little bit because, first, for listeners should listen to the first podcast. But I was with my stepdad and my mom most of my life, and visited my father once or twice a year, and so he and his family are all fairly close area in Connecticut and very close knit as a family, and I was sort of like popping in once or twice a year, and like trying to remember the names of my cousins.
When you do that. For me, do you see things differently when you come back, and either with your family or where you grew up, or part of where you grew up? Do you just go, oh, this feels different? I see things through a different lens now.
Yeah, I think so, and I think in a weird way, almost the opposite happens too. Like once you're away from your family in like as an adult in a real life world, or even like in college and stuff, like, and you start seeing how other people's families act, you're like, oh, that wasn't normal. Like, the way we did in our family was not normal. Like, you find out all these things by being away, and I think you probably bring them back. But I mean, I have no real beef with my family. I love them. It's just it's family. That's exactly. I was actually talking to one of the maintenance guys at work because he was talking about his like daughter's like just turned 15, and she's like sick of him, and he was talking about how she has the same problems with him as he had with his parents. I'm like, whenever you're with your parents, you are 15. No matter how old you are, you're back to 15. Like you have that same relationship. So as much as I feel like I've like tried to learn and grow and be a better human, when I get back with my parents, I very quickly become like just this snotty teenager. I'm like, come on, all over again.
Screw you guys.
Yeah, you're not the boss of me. CBS is.
Do you have somebody in your family that's a Trump supporter? And if so, do they ever, since you work for Colbert, do they ever like talk to you about politics, or do they?
There's someone in my stepmother's family who I was told not to talk about politics with.
Okay.
And so I didn't, and we kept it.
And they don't talk to you about it.
No,
They don't bring it up to you.
No.
Yeah, I have some people in my family that can't help making comments about things.
Yeah.
And it's hard to not get pulled in, take the bait, as they say.
Yeah. It is hard because I don't know. I am such a fact-based person. Like I'm such a logic-based person that I feel like, if I tell them the right facts, they'll understand now.
Yeah.
But it's not about facts. It's about the sort of passion or fear or whatever emotion is being played on by whatever party you want to talk about. But it's almost never really about facts in the end.
Right.
So
I just finished right before you got here the full interview with Michelle Obama.
Yeah, that was great, wasn't it?
She's great.
She's great. Yeah.
Oh, I love her.
I do too.
I bought her book. I haven't read it yet, but
I've heard it's great. I think she's like doesn't have to worry about the thing that every other political public figure has to worry about, which is like they don't actually want to reveal too much in their books because they have a future political career to worry about. Right. They don't want to take too strong. No, she can just.
She doesn't have that.
She doesn't have it, and so I've heard the book is amazing. I haven't read it, but her interview with it was really great.
Dude, when stuff like that happens, you're one of how many writers on the show?
We have 12 writers that are just I mean there are a lot of
freelancers too.
No, we don't. We don't do that. And there are a lot of people on staff who are credited with the writing credit. Who are producers or whatever. But in terms of just like people who are full-time staff writing, I think there's 12.
So when somebody like Michelle comes on, does everybody grab her book and read the book to come up with questions or something?
Not really. I mean, we used to do that at the old show a little more. The comedy, the comedy writers would come up with questions. And I think that's because Stephen had the character, and the character often needed sort of a point of view and needed a sort of creative angle on these interviews. Mm-hmm. But at the new show, we have like segment producers and researchers and who read the books and watch all the other interviews, so they make sure you're not like asking something that she's told a million times. Right. They work really hard to make sure Stephen is really informed and has interesting angles in on it. And it's interesting. It's a whole other show for me because my work for the most part is monologue and act two, like at the desk, or maybe it's more monologue or whatever. Occasionally there'll be like a game that we play with a guest, or not like a beer pong game, but like a sketch or something we do with them. And so occasionally it'll be just something I do with guests, but for the most part, once the guests are out there, I'm done. And so I'm just watching this whole other show that I've had no part of producing, and just enjoying that.
As a fan. Yeah,
as a fan of Michelle Obama and Stephen Colbert.
Does he make everybody watch Lord of the Rings?
No, he does not.
Is that helpful to get hired?
It might be. I actually made a strategic choice. We actually did a week of shows that were like Hobbit themed back at the old show.
Yeah, I remember.
Before The Hobbit came out.
Yeah, and Peter Jackson was on.
Yeah, Peter Jackson was on, and it was really fun. But I just was like, in preparing for that, I was like, I could go and read all these books, but then I realized like I actually can't bring anything to the table that Stephen doesn't already. I cannot help him. Like I can't be like, oh, you forgot about this part, because he knows all of it. He just encyclopedic knows all of it.
His memory is insane.
It's bananas. Yeah.
I saw the thing where Jon Stewart was interviewing him on the Late Show, and he just started quoting a verse from the Bible, I think.
Yeah.
For like 5 minutes, he just went on and on and on.
He did that at one point. Like in my first or second year at the Colbert Report, I was in his office and we were going over something. I can't remember what it was, but it reminded him of I think it was an author who was coming on who had a book about like Shakespeare and politics, and he was like, "What's that sonnet?" And then he just says a sonnet of Shakespeare's, and it was like, and it was like
memorized all of Shakespeare, the whole Bible, all of Lord of the Rings. The movies and the books.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and every American's name and social security number. He's got it all.
I believe it.
He's got it all up.
I believe it.
Yeah, he's just a very smart
It's a good
guy.
thing he's on the good guy's side. 'Cause
Yeah.
he'd be a wicked villain.
He would be. He
You
would
know.
be. Yeah. He's a great guy.
When I go to Second City in Chicago, have you ever been there?
I have never been there actually. My parents, my dad and my stepmom actually went to. They're both retired now, so they do a lot of traveling, and they went to Chicago with some tour and went to Second City and like took pictures. There's like a mural on the wall apparently that he's on there. And,
Yep, exactly. I was
Yeah.
just going to mention that.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't there the time before that I went. My 2 visits prior or whatever. But every time I go to Chicago, I try to see the Second City shows. And Second City has just taken over top to bottom that entire building now. And so there are these big murals. And it's funny because I've seen these before, smaller versions, but there are drawings. Every time you do a main stage show or an ETC show, somebody does like a caricature drawing of the entire cast. So these get framed and they get hung up. So these caricatures that are in the mural are blown up from their caricatures on the guest thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And Colbert's there, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And Carell and Keegan Michael Key and Tina Fey.
A lot of people came out of there. I was such a comedy nerd growing up, but I didn't even know about Chicago. Like, I don't know how I didn't know, but like I was like, oh, if I want to be a comedy person, I need to go to New York or LA. And I went to school in Boston, and then I went out to LA. I just like it was a different era. Obviously, it was like kind of early days of the internet. Back when there was stuff that you just didn't know, like because you couldn't really Google it necessarily. And it's actually kind of a bummer because like everyone I know who's come out of the Chicago scene is just a really strong performer. Like I think you have to be if you're doing it there, you're doing it for the love of it.
Yeah.
And you're not like as much as I love doing it in LA and I did UCB here in New York. There are people there that are using it as a springboard to something else, you know?
Sure.
And the people in Chicago, while they may have visions in their heads of like moving out to LA at some point, they're doing it because they want to be doing it, you know?
Yeah.
They want to be on that stage doing improv, not like just waiting for Lorne Michaels or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I if I could go back and do it all again, I would go to Chicago.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know, and when I made the move from New York to LA, I was reading the SNL Tom Shales book.
Yeah.
Did you read that book?
Yeah.
It's great.
It's a great book.
And they mention Chicago a ton in there, obviously, because half the SNL cast over the years have been from Chicago. But I was like, Chicago, but I want to be an actor. So, what should I do? And I made the choice to go to LA because Will Ferrell went to the Groundlings.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I can go to the Groundlings and still audition for
I had heard about the
things or
Groundlings
something.
as well. That was like the
Yeah.
thing that I thought of as I knew, okay, the Groundlings is where like, I know like Conan had done it for a little bit, I think,
Right.
And Will Ferrell and a bunch of other people. So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
that's the place. I actually started taking classes when I first moved to LA
Me too.
at the Groundlings. And I did really good in level 1 because I was just a fairly funny person that could be quick, and the teacher was not exactly strict. They were just like, kind of encouraging.
Okay.
And then level 2, and they actually want you to start doing real
Writing.
improv.
Yeah.
I sucked at it so bad
Right.
because I was like a writer, and like they want you to be up, even though Groundling's style is pretty broad. They still want you to be grounded and have relationships and stuff like that. And I was just like rushing towards any punchline I saw in my head, and it's just like made for really shitty improv. And
Do you remember your teachers?
no, I don't. I just remember one of the guys in my class worked on Talk Soup, and I thought he was the coolest guy in the
I
world.
think I met Steve Berg.
Oh yeah,
in my class.
yeah, he's great.
Yeah, Steve's great. I just saw him, and he's going to be in some other show or something. He pops up all the time.
He's everywhere.
That's so funny. Who does the? Okay, am I allowed to ask this? Who does the hiring at Colbert
For what?
for writing? Let's say.
Myself, the other head writer, and then the EP and the co-EP, basically.
How do you find writers? Do you
Well, it's just challenging because what I've been...
get packets?
Yeah, we do get packets.
Do you also just kind of go, hey, I know a guy?
A little of that, and we ask like people on staff, especially writers, if they know people. But what I've found is because I'm very glad that we've been able to get a much more diverse writing staff over the past few years. And what I've found is that if you only go to the usual sources, you're going to get the usual people. And
Right.
there are some wonderful people in those usual people, but I'm looking for the wonderful people outside of that group.
The white Irish,
Yeah,
straight
yeah.
American improvisers.
Yeah. I mean, the way I see it is I can have my voice, and having someone else with my voice does not help me all that much.
Right.
In the writer's room, having someone else's voice is always like, I have learned a lot from just working with writers from different points of view.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And so something I've been trying to do is just whenever I see like a funny tweet on Twitter, I like put that person in a list on my Twitter deck, and so I have like a list of like people that are just like seem like funny people on Twitter. So
funny.
especially if they are like
Consistent.
consistent, and also like maybe a person of color or an LGBTQ person, because we still need more representation of
Sure.
those voices. And so, like, I've reached out to some of those people to be like, hey, this time around we're doing packets. Give me a packet and try to give them a shot. And
And then they block you.
they do. They're like, well, who the hell are you? And I was like, look, it's
stalking me.
$200. All you need to do is just PayPal me, and then I'll send you a packet. No, I'm continually going out of my way to try to find more voices and stuff.
Is there, because you have 12 writers,
Mm-hmm.
so you don't hire more than the 12, right? Or do
We
you wait
fluctuate
for
a
somebody
little bit, like between we've had as low as I think 10 at the old show, and I think we've had like 13 or so at the new show.
Is it seasonal? Do you go like, oh, it's August, it's time to look for a new
Not
one or two
really.
writers,
I
something
mean,
like that?
yeah, it's strange. I mean, it's just sort of mostly when there's turnover, I guess.
Yeah.
But I've got a great group of writers, so
Or when you lose your temper and you just fire everybody.
yeah, I do that kind of every week.
I've heard of
Yeah.
page 6.
Yeah,
I heard
that's
about
me.
it.
That's me. Yeah.
What's going on with your love life? Let's talk about that.
Oh boy.
Now we're talking. Now we're talking. Here we go.
I mean, I'm in my 40s now, so I'm officially like in the world where it's like suspicious that I'm not in a relationship or anything.
Right?
Where it's
And
like
you got a
really,
big beard.
Yeah, I got a big old bushy beard, and I work 12 hours a day, so a lot of time available for
How
that.
old are you now?
I am 43.
Me too.
Hey, cheers. buddy.
November 6th.
Hey, oh well, happy birthday,
Thank you. When was
March
yours?
5th.
March 5th.
Yeah, it's getting up there. I mean, it is interesting. I've been thinking a lot about like work-life balance. It's always been sort of my challenge with this job or other jobs, or even when I was struggling. Like when I was trying to be a writer, I was spending a lot more time trying to be a writer than I was like dating or like doing all these other things. Like I definitely have had relationships and I've been on dates and things like that, and I just I'm realizing now as I get older, like maybe I should be putting more priority into that than, and making sure I make the time for those sorts of things.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
I don't know.
Do you do the Tinder?
I've done that in the past, yeah.
The Grinder?
Not the Grinder.
The
No.
Bumble?
I've done the Bumble.
What else is there? I don't even know.
Something. I don't know.
The Dater?
Dater, yeah, I've done Dater. I've done the thing where you hang out in the gas station bathroom. Done that.
That's classic though. That's old school.
That's old school. Look, I'm a romantic. What can I say?
You're in your 40s.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what we do. when we're in
yeah.
our 40s.
Exactly.
If Deborah dumps me tomorrow, I'll meet you at the bathroom.
Okay, great, cool.
I'll
I'll
meet you there.
buy you a Slim Jim. I don't know what that means.
Whatever you want it to be.
I meant it literally, but then I realized that maybe it has some sort of sexual
It's got
connotation.
a few meanings.
It probably does.
You are the comedy writer. You know what you're doing.
I do not know what I'm doing. It's the great myth of my entire career is that I know what I'm doing. At some point when you've been doing it long enough, they go like, well, he must know what he's doing. No. No idea.
No clue.
No idea.
So how Colbert's on like 48 weeks a year or something?
It's closer to, I think, 42 or something.
Is it 42?
42 or 43, something like that.
So you get roughly 9 or 10 weeks off.
Yeah, I think it's
Or do you
7
still work
weeks.
during some of those?
Some of those, like, we had a gray week in October. We call them, so there's dark weeks, and then when we're working but we're not doing new shows, we call them gray weeks. So we have some of those that we do. Less than the old show, I think, because the old show, it was easier to create stuff in advance and sort of have it ready.
Right.
And this not only the format of the show, but also the way the news cycle is, it's just, writing something on a Friday for a Monday is just sort of, how do you do it? You know,
Yeah.
So many things will have happened since then.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because do you guys still do 2 shows on Thursdays?
Yeah. Normally we do. This week, because of Michelle Obama and her schedule, we did a show on Friday, which was fun. Like, it actually was really nice because those 2-show Thursdays can be brutal.
Yeah. I bet.
Yeah.
Is it the same audience?
Yeah.
Oh, really? They just sit there for 2 shows?
Mm-hmm. Well, we do what we
cool.
do. We'll try and do is like tape some of the interviews earlier in the week.
Okay.
And then part of the Friday is sometimes like a clip package or something that will roll in. So it's like the Friday is like, 75% new show or something like that. I don't know what it is. But there's stuff that we sort of recycle into that. Right. So they're not staying for the full like 2 hours, but it is a long stretch for them of hilarious comedy and thought-provoking interviews.
It's worth it.
Yeah, right?
It's worth
Thank
it.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations. The show's doing very well.
Thanks.
When it started, I guess ratings-wise, it took a second to get things figured out. But now, I mean, last I heard, it was still number 1.
That's the last I heard too.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm eager for a time in which, and I think we're pretty much there, where I just don't have to even think about whether like the ratings not that I actively think about it, but it is something that was of a concern at some point.
Well, I would think in the beginning, if it's like not doing well, they're like, oh, they're gonna pull it or something.
I don't want to speak for anyone else, but I mean, I think there is definitely some worry for sure.
Yeah, for you.
Yeah, and
I would if my role was your role.
Yeah,
I'd probably be like, oh, okay, let's see where this goes. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, well, we worked it out, and we're doing quite well, and like I said. So like next time we have a podcast, you're like, hey, are you guys, how are you doing in the ratings? I hope I'll be able to say like, you know what, I don't even know any, like, I don't know.
Or you'll say, well, we're doing good demographic, 18 to 24, pretty good.
Yeah, there's a swath of Upper Michigan that we're really trying. That's our new demo, is the Youpers. That's
well, the last YouTube video got 1.2 million hits. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty good.
Yeah,
pretty good.
But we had 1.3 for the one before that, so we had to fire everybody and replace the entire staff.
Well, my girlfriend's show just got canceled.
I know, I'm sorry. I didn't know whether or not what the etiquette on that was. I wanted to be like, hey, I'm sorry, but also...
I brought it. It's okay.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
It's a great show.
Did you watch?
Yeah. I'm only partway through this newer season.
Oh, it's a good season.
Yeah, I've heard that's why I'm partway through.
And particularly for my girlfriend, she's got, if you're only halfway through it, she's got a couple of great episodes coming up.
She's been very good. I mean, I don't think she and Matt have crossed paths. I think where I'm at in this season. So it's interesting just because it's just seeing her all of her storyline in this season so far has been her own story.
Right.
And she's doing great. So give her my love.
Are you a D&D person?
I used to be, yeah. I haven't played it recently, but I was big into it in high school.
She's massive into it.
Oh, really? That's cool.
The last several years. And now she's a DM.
Oh, cool.
For the last bunch of years. And she's doing a thing for Nerdist.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wait, am I allowed to talk about this? I guess, it's happening next week. I could talk about this. I think so. I'll cut it out if I can't. But, so she's doing this thing for Nerdist next week. And it's called Celebrity D&D, where they asked her to basically put on this mega campaign that stretches over 6 3-hour episodes.
Whoa.
Where each episode will have a different celebrity as like the main focal point.
Oh, cool.
But they also want like a thread to go through the whole story.
Wow.
So she spent hundreds of hours.
Yeah, I gotta imagine.
And so she's really nervous about it. So that's keeping her, preoccupied as opposed to worrying about the cancellation and stuff right now. Yeah. But that starts it'll be 2 episodes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
All right. Yeah, that sounds really good, though.
Like all day long, too. Like Kevin Smith's going to do it.
Cool.
And Charlie Cox from Daredevil. And some good people.
That's awesome.
Sam
these
Richardson.
people... Oh, I love Sam Richardson.
Yeah, he's great.
Are these people people who have played D&D, or are some of them coming in, like, fresh?
Some are coming in fresh. And
I mean, it has a lot of improv elements in it.
Yeah.
So...
I think Sam's going to be great.
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever played. I think he's always wanted to. And Janina Gavankar plays with Deborah pretty regularly, so she's going to play. She's from True Blood. And but mostly I think most of the people haven't played. Matthew Lillard's going to play. He's played a ton.
Cool.
So it's going to be fun.
That sounds awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And well, she's. It would be nice to get my girlfriend back.
Oh, that'll be good. Yeah.
Because hundreds of hours of
Yeah.
all right, I'm gonna go write D&D stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay.
You're like, honey, you want to come to bed? She's like, let me just roll 3d6 to see if I make the value. No, sorry, I didn't make my roll. I have to keep working.
I gotta make some more characters and I'm making a puzzle and all this stuff. Wow. She gets really involved with it.
Yeah.
So when somebody like Michelle Obama comes, is it different? Because of security or whatever?
There's definitely like a heightened security. They do a Secret Service sweep before the show.
Did they pat you down?
They didn't pat me down. I wasn't in the theater for the most of it. I was up in like the offices, which are sort of Jason's building.
Yeah.
I ended up going down at the end because after every show, we sort of a small group of us get together and just post-mortem, like see if anything major went wrong or right to sort of like make sure we can address it. So I was sort of waiting backstage, and so she did pass by me within several feet of me, and I felt like I was in the presence of greatness.
Was she radiating?
She was radiating. I actually got you see this healthy tan I have?
Yes.
It's just from her brilliance. It was like just coming off of her.
I bet.
Yeah.
She's pretty great.
Yeah, she was pretty great. I was actually thinking when she came on, like how much of a bummer it is, like how I didn't realize how cool it was that at the old show, and a little bit at this new show, we got to do things with her and with Barack Obama, who was willing to do bits with us, and like not all the time, obviously, but like Bill Clinton did some stuff, Hillary did some stuff, less stuff, but like I think we're out of that era of like having the politicians like coming, and me be able to write a thing for Barack Obama, or say, definitely not for this current administration.
No.
Yeah.
But, I guess they'll start campaigning for 2020 pretty soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll be do this shit all over again.
It'll all be happening.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
When you guys did a live show for the election in 2016, right?
Yeah.
That must have been a lot of work to do a live show.
Yeah. And then that evening was not
fun.
Not fun.
Because I with the little politics that I'm aware of, I was like, there's no way he's going to win. And I thought it was hilarious that even he got as far as he did.
Yeah.
And I was there's just no way. I was 99% sure.
Yeah.
Did you guys feel that too, or was there some of you like, oh no, this is a real thing?
I was not. I didn't think he was like going to win, but I was worried that he might. Like, and there were people on staff who were like, "No, it's totally going to be fine." Like, because you'd have looked at all the predictions and like, and
who the person is.
Yeah, and who the person is, and what you've heard him say on tape, and etc. But like, I was like, okay. They were like, whatever. 538 has him at like 88% or whatever it was at the time. I'm like, yeah, but that's still like 1 in 10 chance that this other guy, is going to win, like instead of Hillary.
Yeah.
So I always am like a little bit. I never want to like feel too complacent about these things. Right. I will always be a worrier, and I was proven sadly somewhat incorrect to worry.
Yeah.
It was such a weird night for me. One of the comedians we had on was this really funny woman named Jenna Friedman, who's a old Daily Show producer and a stand-up, and she has an Adult Swim special as well. She's super great. And her good friend is also my good friend Elna Baker, who's a This American Life producer. And so Elna in the beginning of the day was like, hey, I'm going to be coming over with Jenna, and I'll be backstage like during the big election show. I was like, oh, that's awesome. Cool. Then the whole day goes along. There's a lot going on in a live show. Like, we have to write jokes for every possible, like, state race and, like, congressional race, Senate races, governorships. Like, what if this guy wins? What if this woman wins? Like, you have to have ideas for everything, and then you have to slot it in as you get the information.
It's complicated.
And it's complicated. So while the whole show was going on, I was, like, watching the show, but I was also, like, doing that and, like, picking jokes and slotting them in. And just sort of, like, even though I knew what was going on in terms of, like, the results of the election, I was just like trying to keep my nose down and like just keep focused on it, just like pure work mode. And then, like I said, we go backstage after every show and sort of talk about it. And I'm walking backstage and I see my friend Elna there. She like turned around the corner, my friend's there. And I'd totally forgotten from like 10 hours ago that she said she was going to be around. And I went from like work mode to like friend mode, like that. And she's like, "How are you?" And I just started crying. Like,
Did you really?
yeah, I just hugged her and I started crying. It wasn't like a long cry, but I was just like, everything. I kept everything bottled up because I'm like, no, I've got to work. This isn't a time for your personal feelings. There's a job to do. And then as soon as it was like, as soon as a friend asked me how I was doing, it all came at once.
Wow.
It was a rough night.
That was a rough night because by the time you guys filmed, you knew.
Yeah.
Right. 11:30.
Yeah, it happened. Yeah, it pretty much happened as we were going on. Like, honestly, it's an amazing piece of television, and I say that having almost nothing to do with it because we threw away so many of these bits that we had written.
Right.
And Stephen just sort of talked through it with his guests and with the audience and with himself. He sort of like figured it out and figured out what that meant to him.
There's a lot of processing in moments in live television. And
yeah. And I like I said, I had very little to do with it, but I think it's a remarkable piece of TV because it just of how Stephen managed to like find a way to get through that honestly, emotionally, but also still like bringing some levity to it. He's an impressive dude.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I'm reliving it myself.
No, snap out of it.
I see you do bits sometimes, like on screen bits.
Yeah, I've done a couple of them.
You've
Yeah,
done a few.
Yeah.
I saw you with Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was the only one. 10 years with Stephen. The only once have I asked to be in a bit. And it was like, can I be in the Star Wars bit with Mark Hamill? Like,
that's a big deal.
Yeah, it was a big deal, and so it was really fun.
He wanted to be in a Mark Hamill Star Wars bit. He wanted to do it.
I was like just sort of talking with him is generous, but I was sort of backstage. We were waiting to go on, and I said to him like, "This is really exciting for me." I had the toys when I was a kid, and I played with them all the time. And he was like, "You know what? Like, I got all those toys too, and I should have kept them in the boxes. I, would have had a lot of money." And I was like, "What are you?
You're doing okay.
Yeah, you're doing fine, man." But then it was like, I got to play. I wasn't on screen with him at the same time, but I still feel like I got to play Star Wars with Luke Skywalker.
And you got to talk to him and stuff. So cool.
That's pretty cool.
And then you did a bit I saw with Bill Murray.
Yeah, that was a weird one. That was like, I got a call from a producer, and it was just like, Bill Murray wants to run in from the back of the theater with a T-shirt cannon, and he wants a couple of guys in workout gear jumping up and down around him and like helping him load the T-shirt cannon. Will you do that? I was like, sure.
Of course.
And like pretty much all he said beforehand was like, you cannot go too big. Just like go over don't worry about it. Go big, like jump up and down and holler. He wanted us to go large. So it was me and this wonderful writer producer Michael Brum. We got to jump up and down in weird outfits on TV, and it was pretty fun.
That's so funny.
I still don't know what the bit is other than Bill Murray being Bill Murray.
That's it.
Yeah, that's all you need.
That's all you need.
Yeah,
he's a hero of mine.
Yeah, he's great.
Have you had any run-ins with anybody that you enjoyed that stick out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I actually don't meet most of the guests because to do so is to go out of the way, and like it's kind of, I don't know. I don't want to be a pain.
Yeah, of course.
But there are people that I do want to be a pain, and so I insist on meeting. Not insist, but like I ask the producers if it's okay.
I want to meet them now. Bring them to me.
Steve Martin, I got to meet, which was amazing. He's a hero of mine. So good. I felt.
Was he okay?
He was great.
Yeah.
He was doing a bit on the show that night, a song with Steven. And I came in, and the producer who was working on a segment was like, "Steve, this is Opus Moreschi. He's one of the head writers." And I was like, "Hi." And he's like, "Oh, are you here to work on the script with me?" And I was like, that would have been so much cooler. Like, but no, I'm just here because I'm a fan. And I was just like, I wish I had thought of that. I wish that would be such a cool in, and I wouldn't have to worry about being a fan nerd boy. But
I know.
I was there to be a fan nerd boy.
Was he okay with it?
Yeah, he was very nice. Yeah,
okay.
He was very nice.
I love him.
Yeah.
Sarah Silverman told a great story on the Stern Show recently, where she was saying they were talking about Steve Martin, and she goes, "I was after like an award show or something. I was with this great group of people. It was amazing. It was Martin Short, Steve Martin, Candice Bergen, and like some other people." And Marty says, "So Candice, how did you and Steve first meet?" And she goes, oh, it was so funny. Steve didn't know what prosciutto was. And then Steve says, can you believe it? Now I drive one. It's like this perfect, I'm like, holy shit, that is like the perfect
That's so good.
joke. Like the entire, it's like they set it up that way.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
He's just a genius.
Yeah, he's great.
He had a great book too, his memoir.
Yeah.
Did you read it?
Yeah,
Boy Standing Up?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I actually it made me a little sad because I had convinced myself that some of the sort of more mainstream movies he was doing around that time, that was around the time of like the Pink Panther and like the Cheaper by the Dozen or whatever, that family comedy stuff. And in my mind, I'm like, he's just older and he doesn't maybe he's sort of slowed down and he's just not, he's just taking a paycheck or whatever, but he's not as with it anymore. And then you read that book, I'm like, oh, he's completely with it. He's like, he knows the level of comedy he was doing, and I understand completely why he's not doing stand for anything anymore, but I want him to be doing more comedy. And I had convinced myself that was because maybe he was just getting older, and I'm like, no, he's just as sharp as ever.
Yeah.
I also think he's addicted to art is the thing.
Yeah, I think so too. I think his more important passions are music.
Yeah.
And writing.
Yeah, he does like books and plays and stuff. Yeah.
All the time. I saw his play. I forget the name of it now, but it was very good.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw like him doing a Q&A about it with Edie Brickell and stuff. It was really cool. Anybody, do you get to meet other heroes of yours? Your heroes are probably my heroes.
Yeah, I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of overlap. Weird Al, got to meet him.
I got to meet Weird Al at a meet and greet at his concert.
Oh, that's
I bought
awesome.
like a VIP ticket.
Oh, cool.
It was cool. I got a picture with him, and he had stormtroopers there for some reason. So it's me and him and stormtroopers in the picture. So
that's so cool.
But it's so cool.
Yeah, he is a big influence. Eric Idle came by recently. That was really cool.
I just saw him at Largo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He did a little thing at Largo. That's pretty neat.
That sounds nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to see John Cleese at they did a Monty Python Holy Grail screening, and he did a Q&A afterwards with his daughter.
Oh, wow.
But she asked all the questions. But for like an hour,
audience questions. They never are very good.
She read them. Somebody wrote them because she was reading from things. So maybe the audience, and they just went through the good ones. And
because I feel like every audience question is like, thanks, you're such a big influence on me. I'm actually a filmmaker myself, and if I had, say, a script currently in my lap that I needed to hand to you, what would you say to me as a young artist? Like it's always so self-serving at those things.
Right? Can I get a hug or a selfie?
I went to remember you see that movie Hot Fuzz, the Simon Pegg?
I love that movie.
I went to see that at the ArcLight back when I was living in LA, and it was unannounced, but like Simon Pegg and Nick, whatever, I can't remember the other guy. The other guy in the movie.
It's Nick Frost.
Yeah. Were there, and for whatever reason, Quentin Tarantino was there too, and he was like, they just sort of ran out after the movie was over, and they're like, we're doing a Q&A now, and it was like crazy and weird. It was actually like Jack Black introduced, not Michael Bay, but one of those other directors who do action movies. He's like, here, ladies and gentlemen, we got a special guest, this guy, and then this guy came out and was like, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest, Quentin Tarantino, and then Quentin Tarantino came out and said, we got a special guest, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, and then he proceeded to do a little Q&A, but it was a crappy Q&A, and Quentin Tarantino is like manic. He's a crazy person. And he started yelling at the audience for having bad questions. And he was like, no one is leaving until we get a good question for these people. And I was like, I was sticking around to see if there's a scene after the credits. I didn't know that there's going to be this whole thing. I just want to get out of here now.
Well, he should ask questions then, you know?
Yeah, he should.
I'm sure he's got an inquisitive mind and would love to ask questions to those people. That'd be good.
Yeah, would have been something.
Grab the bull by the horns, Quentin.
Come on, dude.
Get it together. Last time I saw you, we were talking a little bit about Antarctica.
Yeah, because of your marathoning.
Because you were curious about my time in Antarctica.
Yeah.
And we never finished because we kept getting interrupted.
Oh, by ourselves?
Yeah, do you remember?
Yeah.
At the party, those people just kept saying, hey, it's
Opus,
interrupting us and stuff, and I never actually...
And I was tipsy. So how was it? Tell me.
It was okay.
Yeah?
And that was it.
Is it? Okay. Just your average Antarctica marathon.
Well, Antarctica. It was a tiny island I was on, off the Big Island. So it was the closest part of Antarctica that I think you can get to from the tip of Chile.
Okay.
Because we took a 2-hour.
And was your
plane.
tip chili?
Everything was chili. Everything.
Sorry.
No, you're the comedy writer. I accept it. Everything was chili. And I only spent 23 hours on the island.
Oh, wow.
Because you fly there, you land, and when you land, it's like black rock with snow on it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then you walk like a mile or two to the camp, and these guys are putting down these big sphere round tents, and it's 3 people per tent. So you have to kind of find who you're gonna bunk with,
Make friends.
And the tents are on rocks.
Wow.
Like literally, like guys, you can't move the rocks over, and they're kind of like, that's your problem. That's a you problem. So you're sleeping on rocks. They give you like this pad that's real thin.
Yeah.
And then I brought another one that didn't do any good. And then you bring a sleeping bag and all that stuff. It was really, really windy when we landed, to the point of like half my face from where it was blowing was like frozen. And then there's a tent where everybody can kind of hang out and eat, get food and stuff like that, and converse. And
How many people were there to run?
about 44.
Okay.
44 people. But by that, the tents are being built. We're supposed to get up at 4 a.m. and run at 5 a.m. It's already like 10 p.m. And they're still putting in the camp.
Yeah.
The camp stuff. By the time they finished, it was probably near midnight or something.
Wow.
And me and my guide went into the tent with another. He met somebody, and the 3 of us went into the tent. And now it had snowed like 24 hours beforehand, so there was snow on the ground, and they were telling us that there's snow in the path of the run. So be prepared for that. And how it works is you don't have 26 miles of space. You have, it's probably about 3 miles, 3 or 4 miles, where you just run back and forth.
Yeah.
So I didn't sleep at all because I was so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so at 4 o'clock,
Because you're like the princess and the pea. You're like, oh, you're so precious. You can't sleep on a pile of rubble now, EJ. Come on.
I'm pretty spoiled that way.
I guess so.
I'm pretty spoiled that way. So at 4 o'clock, I hear the guys starting to get everybody awake. And I'm like, oh my God, I haven't slept. And for a couple weeks prior, I was really sick. Like one of the worst sicknesses I've ever had in my life. I had some sort of an infection in my body or something.
Yeah.
And so for like a week and a half, I would just sweat. I just sweat for like a week. And I didn't train.
Yeah.
And then and then I finally was feeling better when I was in Chile, but I still wasn't training because I was kind of weak and I didn't have a way to train and all that stuff. So I was really, it was hard. And then we start the race. I'm thinking I'm going to do a full marathon, and I get within, I think 2 or 3 miles. And I told my guy, David, I said, David, I can't do a full marathon.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
Wow.
And I've never felt that way so early on in a marathon.
Yeah.
But I'm not used to trails, and this was a trail run. There was snow there was a mountain of snow you had to climb over.
Wow.
And then climb back over because you're
going
going
the
the
other
other
way.
way.
Yeah.
And then do it again every time you do a lap.
Wow.
And then there's places to slip and all this stuff. I was going to be blindfolded, but because it was so treacherous and it was cloudy, I didn't use a blindfold. But I still used my guide to be near me and stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's like a quarter mile of just these big round rocks that you're supposed to run on.
Wow.
Like that's the ground. It's like these big round rocks. I'm like, that's dangerous. This is a stupid place to run.
Yeah.
So I asked. I said, "This is." I feel terrible. So I asked the guy that was running it. I said, "Hey, because they said you had as much time as you needed to run it, for whoever was running it."
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, "Look, I don't think I could do this. Can I do a half?"
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Sure, but you can take as much time as you want."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Thanks. I'm just going to do the half." And the half took me 6 hours.
Wow.
Something like that. Yeah, which is usually what it takes me to do a full.
Yeah. Are most
maybe it was
people's
4.5.
time? Were most people's time like? I know you obviously had extra hindrances because of the
Lots of
sickness and
things,
everything.
yeah.
But like, do most people have like very long times when they're doing that course since it's so crazy?
Yeah, and some did really well because they're used to running in cold weather and they're used to trails. Like I was not used to either of those things. I train on a treadmill.
Yeah.
And we like one person. It was a half marathon, a full, and a 50K, 50 kilometers, which is like which is about 30 miles, something like that. So there was only like 2 or 3 people doing the 30-miler.
Yeah.
And it took the person running the longest took 12 hours.
Wow.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yikes.
And but I'm glad I did it, but there's no way I could have done a full one. After I started running, my body burst out into sweat.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm wet and I'm cold and I'm miserable and weak and all this other stuff. And for whatever it took me to run it, I think it was 6 hours, 5 or 6 hours. I was freezing the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Just freezing and miserable.
And like with the sweat, like probably like just making you feel clammy and like
it
ugh.
was disgusting. I started crying. I cried a couple times because it was so emotional for me. And then afterwards, I put on dry clothes, and then whoever was done, they would bring to another island or something and see penguins, what they call Penguin Island. So there'd be hundreds of penguins.
Wow.
And that was fun. That was fun. I was happy just to be done with my running.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Wow.
But I was really beat.
That sounds intense.
Beat. It was pretty intense. But we drove through like these giant glaciers. Like they're magical looking.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. It's crazy.
That's amazing.
Do you ever want to travel?
Yeah,
Where would you like to go?
Well, the glaciers thing reminds me. A couple summers ago, I went to Iceland, which was beautiful and crazy, and like looks like another world. I recommend it. It's very cool.
I want to go there.
There's a glacier there that they actually had like kind of drilled this whole cave into, so that you could actually go inside and see. The guy was showing us that there's like the way the glacier sort of like more water freezes on top of it every year. And so he was pointing out like 2 very thin lines of in the side of the glacier, and it was from ash from those. I don't know if you remember, like maybe like 6 years ago, there was like a big volcano went off, and like all the flights in Europe kind of got canceled for a couple days.
Yeah.
And that happened like twice in the last 10 years, and he was just showing us that's that year. That's ash from that year, and that's ash from that year, and it just got compacted down because it's just more and more ice every year, and it just sort of presses everything down.
Was it good news that? Because every time I hear about glaciers, they're melting and dropping off. Is it hopeful that that one is?
No. And in fact, our guide was very dour. He was just like really bummed about how everything sucked and no one was doing anything about it. I mean, I guess if you're a glacier expert, you're gonna you don't get a lot of good news.
Yeah.
But it was still very interesting to see, and that's where I would go if there's like ever a zombie apocalypse or something.
Iceland.
I'd go to Iceland because when I was at my Airbnb, cold water came from glacial runoff, just beautiful cold water, and the hot water came from thermal springs.
Wow.
You can get hot and cold running water just from the earth around you.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What was your Airbnb like? Was it nice? Or
Yeah, it was like
kinda...
a little 1-bedroom apartment.
Did you go by yourself?
Yeah, I did. I just broken up with a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And I was like actually trying to plan a trip with her to Iceland, and then she was like, "Why don't we go somewhere warm?" And I was like, "No." that wasn't the reason why we broke up. But
That's
after,
a good reason.
No, it was not. It was other things, and she's a lovely person. But after we broke up, I'm like, well, now I can go to Iceland. So I did, and it was
you can go anywhere cold you want.
Yeah. I like cold.
Yeah, Iceland. I gotta go to Iceland and some other places.
Yeah, I would like to travel more. I would really like to go to like Australia and New Zealand, and
I've been with the Hobbiton.
Hobbiton.
I went to Hobbiton.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
I've heard it's cool.
It's pretty cool.
One of my best friends is actually Australian. She's actually Australian, American, New Zealand triple citizenship.
Wow.
And yeah, during that hiatus time, that when we last sat down, the break between the two shows, we were actually planning on going down there together and like kind of she was going to show me around a little bit. But then she had some financial difficulties and we couldn't do it. But because of my schedule now, like the most I'll get is like the 2 weeks off around Christmas or something, and it's just hard to do anything in like that length because it takes like a day to get to to Australia.
Yeah.
And like traveling
internally
and inside Australia and New Zealand like takes a long time. So
especially from New York.
Yeah.
It's a long trip.
Yeah.
You'd probably have to you could just do a red eye and just sleep in business class or something.
That's expensive.
It's expensive, but
Yeah.
but you make the money. You make all the money.
I don't make all the money.
You can break it up, I guess. You can stay a couple days in LA.
Yeah.
Do something like that,
Yeah.
Does the news depress you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's hard. Like I was like a news nerd before I got the old show job, which was 10 years ago. But what I didn't realize once I started working is like, even though I was a big into the news and I was following a lot of stories, I always had the opportunity to turn it off when it got like kind of really sad or made me mad or whatever.
Right.
And then I'm like, I can't do that. I don't have that chance anymore. Like I have to be on top of stuff.
Yeah.
So that can be a little rough.
I assume like part of your day is spent reading newspapers or articles and watching. Do you watch CNN or any of those
usually have it
things?
on in the background. I'll watch some CNN in the morning. Sometimes I'll read.
And they get repetitive. The 24-hour
yeah.
news cycles. They just kind of say the same thing over.
But you sort of have to have your antennas up because oftentimes something will happen at like 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
Right.
Trump will hold a press conference. He did that a couple weeks ago and held that press conference. He just like was yelling at Jim Acosta and then really being rude to every person of color who asked him a question. Anyways, but that all happened at like 3:30 in the afternoon. We tape at 5:30, so it's like that's like, all right, rip up the script. We're starting over.
Hot off the press.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys just start writing at 3:30 instead of spending?
Sometimes it feels like we should, but you can't know for sure. And
because I've heard Rachel Maddow say stuff like that, where I worked all day on this thing and then throw it all away half hour before, and I'm like, why don't you just wait? Just sleep in.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, he's crazy. Will you in 2 years? God help us, he's not president anymore. Do you think that your job will be lifted? Do you think like there'll be like a cloud that's gone or anything like that?
I think in my personal life there'll be a cloud that's gone. Like just like as a human being, as an American, that actually really loves his country and wants the best for it. Like I will feel better when that happens. As far as like the show, I don't know. I'm old enough to remember that everyone thought that comedy would be over after 9/11 and like you can't do jokes anymore. Right. Everything's too serious now.
Now we make 9/11 jokes.
Yeah, we do. And then after Bush left office and Barack Obama came in, people were like, well, you can't, what are you going to do? You don't have Bush to kick around anymore. Right. Like, how are you going to make jokes anymore? So I'm not exactly afraid of the whole, like, what are you going to do? There's news and news, there'll be jokes. And most of my time
There's still a GOP.
Yeah. When I started at the Colbert Report was the first day of the Republican National Convention, I believe, in 2008. And so I really had 3 months, I think, of Bush jokes before it was like Obama got elected. Right. And then the entire time I was there was during the Obama years. So, and I think we made a lot of really good jokes.
Yeah.
So
you got 3 Emmys for your jokes.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad. Not bad.
Those are Obama Emmys.
They are, yeah. They have his name on them, actually. I just took them.
Well, hey, Opus.
Yeah.
I think that's a good run. You have anything you want to plug or anything?
No.
Yeah, that's good.
No, I don't think so.
You're on the Instagram.
My Instagram, yeah. Hey, it's Opus.
And then on Twitter.
Also, hey, it's Opus. And on
Snapchat.
I'm Jenna Jameson on Snapchat. No, I'm not. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a porn star, and apparently all my porn star references are 15 years old.
Oh, I get it.
Okay.
I got it. We're the same age.
Hey.
We masturbate to the same women. High five.
High five.
Poor Jenna Jameson. She really hit.
Yeah, I haven't kept up with her, but I feel like every once in a while I'll see like a clickbaity kind of article, and I'll be like, oh. I think it's a rough profession. I'm very supportive of like sex workers and like all that stuff. I don't want to be one of those people who like think is like waggling a finger or whatever. But I do think it's a rough profession because
for sure.
Some people can transition into like singing, like doing producing and directing. Like that's what Stormy Daniels was doing really up until all this blew up. Like she was mostly directing and producing things, and she transitioned pretty well. But like some people, obviously, it's tough. I'm sure.
And well, I saw like a video of her a few years back, and she was just drugged up or something. You could just tell, like she wasn't even speaking.
Yeah.
But then recently, she like was posting things like I lost weight and I'm getting. So it seemed like she was getting her shit together, which is good.
Yeah.
Ah, Jenna. Oh boy. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
What?
Nothing.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was really fun.
Great talking with you again.
Yeah.
Hopefully
we will
in 4
be
years.
Silent again as soon as this podcast is over.
Yeah.
And then we will begin talking again once it starts in 4 years or so.
4 years.
Yeah,
Perfect.
all right. I'll see you then. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Opus. And go watch Late Show, Stephen Colbert. Scene.
Yay.
Thank you, sir.
There you go, folks. Thank you so much, Opus, for talking with me again. It was a pleasure. There you go, folks. So go follow Opus on the socials and check out Late Night with Stephen Colbert. It's still hilarious and awesome. And once in a while, you'll see Opus. Once in a while. One more time for my socials, for my plugs. Catch me on Twitter at EJ Scott and at EJ Podcast. Instagram, EJ Scott1106. Website, ejscott.com. Running Blind documentary available on iTunes, Amazon, and Google Play. Subscribe to my podcast on iHeartRadio and iTunes. And please, oh, there go my dogs. And on on iTunes, give a review, please, and try not to mention my dogs. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.